Hey guys, this is So Approachable,
the podcast for social misfits who've always wanted to be a part of a book club.
but perhaps you've been overlooked in the real world, or you're just too busy. We get it.
This is your invitation. You're in good company. Let's get into it.
Hey guys, this week we are doing First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. I'm Jamie Livingston.
And I'm Sarah Lyles, and we are so approachable.
Yes, we are. All right, we're going to jump right into this book. Hopefully you've listened to the TLDR episode. If not, go back, listen to that one. Here's just a little snippet from the inside jacket. Evie Porter has everything a nice Southern girl could want. A doting boyfriend, a house with a white picket fence, a tight group of friends. The only catch? Evie Porter doesn't exist.
Well, I think that's a great place to start.
Who is she? The author actually describes Evie as morally gray, which I think is a very interesting way of framing this. Like, she feels like a decent character, but we also find out that
She's not.
she's not.
Yes.
So morally gray, I think, is like a really,
That's appropriate.
politically correct. I don't know.
Like, I think the thing is like inside she wants to be good, but she's in this like life that she can't be. And so morally gray, I think, is accurate.
Right. I think of her as a confident young woman with a certain set of skills, and she puts her knowledge to use in just an interesting way. And she does have her own limits, though, of like how far bad she'll go. So she's not like a true baddie.
Right.
I feel like she's just this conniving person. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you like her?
I will say yes, I did. I think after reading the history of her life, like, so knowing more about like her mom, knowing more about where she came from, I think that made me have a soft spot for her and go, okay, so really she was in this bind to where the bad thing she did back then was really to try to help her mom. And so I felt that, you know, when she stole back in the day, it was more so like, I want to make sure we have enough money for my mom who's like dying.
Right, to pay for cancer treatments.
Yes. And it's so sad. And so that made me go, okay, Evie, there was that. And so I feel like that's how she got into that life. That's how I envisioned it. And what did you think of her?
I really liked her. I thought she was very resourceful, and I think conniving definitely has a bad connotation, but I think that she was really smart and used what she had, and I thought it was really fun to follow along with her. It's not activities that I necessarily would do or condone, but, you know, I thought it was really cool to kind of, I don't know, I saw her as a spy, but I don't know what you would actually call her profession.
I mean, I saw her doing so many things in there, like stealing and lying a lot.
Yes,
and
that's
so
the title.
Yes. And so you saw a lot of that unfold. And so as that went on, you kind of saw like inside of her heart. And so that's where I think that morally and kind of gray, not so black, was at that forefront.
All right, so I think we need to dive in because it does specifically say what the first lie is when it comes to what the first lie wins means.
Yes, and that's on page 27. So right on page 27, she says, there's an old saying, the first lie wins. It's not referring to the little white kind that tumbled out with no thought. It refers to the big one, the one that changes the game, the one that is deliberate, the lie that sets the stage for everything that comes after it. And once the lie is told, it's what most people believe to be true. The first lie has to be the strongest, the most important, the one has to be told.
Yeah, I love that. And the fact, so that in and of itself, that whole paragraph standing alone, I feel like we could talk for an hour about. But I think the paragraph that comes after that is so interesting because it makes it sound like she's telling one lie. But it's actually this paragraph where she's telling her life story to Ryan's friends. And she goes into this whole diatribe about how I went to college at this place, this was my hometown, and then I was in this devastating accident with my parents and they died and I'm just trying to make ends meet. And then everybody, it just silences the room around her and everybody shuts up because they feel like schmucks for making her tell about her family and like prying. And so that lie won. It 100% won because they just shut up.
Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of that, and you think of lies, right? And we've talked about lies a little bit. And so in those lies, like knowing that one trumped all the others, it literally set the stage for that whole conversation and that whole relationship. Because this was the first time she was meeting these people. Mm-hmm. So,
well, second time technically after dinner. So this was when they went to the diner.
Oh, yes.
But it was really that the lie was so strong and so reinforced that they didn't ask any more questions.
Right.
So they didn't dig in or try to chisel away or chip away at some of the things that she said.
Right.
And so that, to me, is why it won.
Right. Oh, yeah. And really, she was careful about her lies. She didn't want to go on some of the small ones because she was like, I got to keep it somewhat close to the truth because I got to, once you tell a lie, you've got to live it. And so she was careful.
One lie leads to another lie, to another lie. It's a lesson we try to teach the kids, and it just doesn't ever hit home. And it's like, come on, guys, why not?
Well, and I mean, that's kind of the thing is like she lives on a lie. I mean, her whole life, if you look at Evie Porter, just Evie Porter, that name is a lie. And so knowing all of that is a lie really stems.
Well, I did find it interesting. She said at one point that she lied to the police for the first time as Evie Porter. So in all of the other aliases and situations that she's been in, she hasn't lied to police. And so she knew that that was like a line that she crossed where it was like, okay, well, I officially lied to police by saying that I'm Evie Porter. Mm-hmm. So that told me something that she's, again, morally gray. Like she knows when to tell the lies and how to weave that into the conversations.
Right. And she was careful to stay away from the police. I mean, even in that interaction, she really didn't even want to be near them, but she was wanting to, be with Ryan. So, all right. So all these aliases, and there were a lot of them.
Yes. So did you like how the author kind of wove those stories together? So we're in the present day, and then it keeps flashing back. It goes 10 years back, 8 years back, 6 years back. What did you think of that?
That was hard to follow. Sometimes it was like, okay, wait, where am I? You almost have to look at the beginning. If you were audiobooking it, you had to be really careful. When you are reading it, sometimes I would have to go back and be like, okay, wait, where am I? Am I in present day or am I in a different alias? Because new names pop up and you're like, where did this person come from? And so sometimes it kind of got confusing. If you weren't following it, if a kid was in the background distracting you, you could completely get lost. What did you think of it?
I loved it. I felt like I was craving more information. So every time it went back in time, I was like, oh, what am I going to learn now? What clue am I going to get as to what is happening now? Because she kept referencing like, well, it happened on this job. And I was like, are we at that job yet? No, we're not. Okay, we're at the other one. So it kept building and building and building. And so I really liked kind of peeling her back layer by layer.
Well, and it really does show the build on the character. Because really, Ashley Elston does an amazing job building that character. Not just like, okay, you get to see her at the very beginning. It builds the character through the whole book. Mm-hmm. So you see her in one alias. It shows all these different areas of her. And so she builds upon builds. And you feel this different way about her every time you see a different alias.
I thought it was neat when we flashed back to 10 years prior, before she gets hooked up with Mr. Smith. Mm-hmm. And we see her using her job as kind of a cover for going in and stealing jewelry. Like that was kind of an interesting point to start at as like I feel like she was still in her teens at that point and trying to make ends meet. But then when we see her on her first job, she's a nanny in college. I don't know if she actually was. She wasn't in college at that time, but that age. And that just made me think there's so many people that I know who did that, were nannies in college. And like, that's just so a typical role that would be easy to play.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think about that situation and how that whole thing kind of played out and how she was kind of caught, but kind of not caught?
the way it ended, I mean, the way she was caught but not caught, that's crazy in itself. But I mean, the fact that how she showed the love to the little boy was just, again, build on her character to show how much she really did have like care, and she actually did have compassion. She didn't just live life in this like, oh, I'm all the way out. This is reserved. We're only in a job.
Right. And I loved that that's where we were introduced to the paper swans, the origami swans. That was just so cute that she left it behind and that she had taught the little boy how to do that. And so that was something special. So when those kind of pop up later on, as I think we'll get to that because that has a very key role in all of this. But I just thought that was a really cute moment of foreshadowing, I guess.
Yeah, I like that she actually made connections, and I couldn't imagine being in that position and having to leave him the way she had to leave him. I mean, if you look at that, like where she left him, leaving, I mean, the mom the way that she did, and the way she called him and like, okay, you got to come, and she's like watching the ambulance come as she's driving away. That was just it was sad.
The only thing about that doesn't seem realistic to me is that she was there for a week. I think that's really all it was. Because the mom comes out and is like, I've been watching you snooping around my house the last week. So it wasn't a long-term job. So she really didn't have like this long-term relationship with this child. So the amount of feelings that she had acquired in that short amount of time seemed maybe a little strange to me. It wasn't like she had been working there the entire summer and had done everything, but
I guess valid. I guess in my mind, I didn't imagine it just being a week. I mean, because there was so much that happened. If it was just a week, there's so much that happened in that week. And like okay, how in a week did she show a little boy how to make paper swans?
Right. Following all those instructions. It also said that was the first time that she learned or told herself, I'm never going to get attached on the job again. Which, I mean, foreshadowing, like we flip right back to the present day and she's clearly attached.
Oh, clearly.
Clearly attached. Okay, so let's hop back to present day because we like Ryan, right?
Yes.
Ryan's a good guy.
I like Ryan. Yeah, I think he was a really great guy. I actually saw him and I thought, okay, I already knew there was something up with him. I immediately saw that. I just didn't know the details. And so I was like, all right, he's a really cool guy. I like their relationship. But what's up with him?
Right. He seemed really cool. I mean, we learned that he's living in his grandparents' house, and that in and of itself evoked all these emotions for me, and I can picture exactly what that would look like. I lived with my great aunt for a while, so I get that vibe. So I felt like he was this wholesome person, but when you find out that he's the target or the person that she's there, who knows doing what about, that there is something shady. So I did not suspect him at the beginning as being Mr. Smith or being anything more nefarious than just the job that we learn about. Did you have initial suspicions about him?
I thought there was something. I didn't know what, but I thought, well, I guess probably because of the other books we've been reading lately, going, right. Okay, the good guy's not always the good guy. I mean, that's also because I read a lot of thrillers too. So I already have that mentality of like, there's never truly any really good guy.
Yeah. I did think it was very interesting when Evie was snooping around his Texas business and was stuck in the shower while he's like about to torture somebody.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes.
That was a complete 180. And she even references and says, I've seen fun Ryan and romantic Ryan, but scary Ryan, that's intriguing. And I was like, intriguing? He's about to like cut off somebody's fingers.
Oh, yes. I know. And so it also, again, morally gray. Mm-hmm. So she's a little, a little feisty on that, liking that. And so, yeah, but to see him in that, I was like, okay, ding, 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 there's something there.
Right. When that scene played out and hearing the angry side of him, that's when I was like, is there more to this guy? I still don't see it. And so she really had me like right up until the last minute as to who Mr. Smith could be. So, do you remember when we're actually introduced to Mr. Smith?
So
Sorry. The real Mr. Smith? Do you remember when we're introduced to George?
Oh, George.
Yeah.
Yes. It wasn't for a little while. I don't feel like I remember being introduced to George.
Yeah, we were.
Well, see,
So I went back and read because at the end I was like, all right, I need to go back and read the first interaction. And it's not until halfway into the book, and it's in Hilton Head.
really?
Hilton Head is the first time we meet George,
And he was so forgettable, and it blended in that I didn't even recognize that.
right? So I went back. What do you picture as George? Because you envision this, like, what age range?
Oh, like 50s, 60s in my head.
Yeah, 30s.
Like, I envision this older guy, maybe balding on the top.
Yeah.
I, like, totally get this picture of this older gentleman just
No.
kind of slow moving.
I was picturing an older Southern, like, slow.
Maybe have
like,
some chew in his mouth.
Yes. No, it was 30, short hair, very, like, indescript, forgettable face, but, like, young professional is the vibe. I went back and looked at it. Like, he's the one that delivers the cart of room service. And
yeah.
she's like, I didn't order anything. And that's where we meet George.
Wow. That's crazy because I did not at all
I was
remember that.
picturing an old man the whole time.
I'm so glad you went back and looked because I did not at all envision that.
Yeah. And my other question with that was, did George meet with other clients or the other associates and, like, hand deliver things to them? Or was it just Evie?
Well,
Because she said she wanted to only work with Mr. Smith.
Well, I felt like she was in a test this whole time. Yeah. And so I feel like he felt like the only way this test was going to work is if he did it himself. Because I felt like he was starting to lose trust of his different people. Mm-hmm. And so all those people that worked with him, at that point, I feel like after that whole thing went down with Amy, I felt like he needed to have his own hand on it, not just like a third party, but actually doing it himself. And so then I was like, oh, that makes sense why he would be the one that's now.
Well, right. He didn't want a middleman to be delivering stuff. So it totally makes sense. But it's also a great disguise to think, why would he be the one walking around and doing the dirty work?
Right.
So it got me. It got me. I again, trying to be smarter than the author, but I mean, I feel like I had a little bit of suspicion there because it was this odd person showing up.
Right.
When he showed up in Tennessee, I think it was near the end.
Yeah.
Like when she was running in the other direction.
Yes.
When he showed up, I was like, okay, that.
Well, I said
feels
something's weird. I said, what is this? Who is this? He's got to either be like his, like, I don't know, his bodyguard or his somebody. Like, he's got to be connected to Mr. Smith because he's weird.
Right.
Red flags.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to another alias, since I brought us all over the place. So we were just talking about Hilton Head. So maybe that whole situation and how she kind of circumvents Matt and takes hold of this job by herself and ends up with all this leverage at the end of it.
I know. How smart of her.
So smart.
I was so impressed with her ability to take something and turn it all around to be able to use it against, like, everyone. And so I thought that was ingenious.
I loved that we even learned about it after the fact with the swans again, that when she was in a tight spot and needed to get pulled out of jail, out of the police office, that she sent a message to one of them and said, remember Hilton Head, get me out.
Yeah.
And it was just all based off of that swan.
Which is so cool.
Like to say, I've got evidence on you. I'm going to call in a favor sometime. You remember this.
I just thought that was really cool and like, wow, she's so smart.
Right. I loved that. So the Hilton Head thing, I also, as a journalist and covering political things, that like hit my fancy because I I liked that because everybody's always looking for dirt and we're the ones that are going to go and find it and like they're going to be in trouble. So the fact that this guy was kind of running for governor, but then potentially bigger aspirations, like,
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. I liked how that was woven in there.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Okay, we got to talk about one of my favorites.
Okay.
All right, so when we find out who Evie Porter really is,
Okay.
when the girl comes in and presents herself as Luca Moreno, I was like, wow, okay. At first I'm like, okay, wait. And then when you find out, wait, that's her actual name. That's her actual identity. What did you think about all that?
I was definitely very surprised and was trying to do the mental gymnastics of what could this possibly mean? How could this be twisted against her? And so I didn't see the full picture until it unraveled a little more. And I was shocked when Luca died. Because then I was like, no, she didn't. There's no way that that person actually died. And wondering if James was involved, all of this.
Yes.
But to be presented with a body double and somebody claiming to be you, I can't fathom that. What would you do?
I don't know. Could you imagine, like, someone that obviously looks like you? She very much so said, like, we had the same type of features. And so then someone coming and introducing themselves as the person who you really are when you're on a job, I mean, I would be just shocked.
Well, and knowing what she knows about changing appearance and what her employer provides for them, and just asking all the questions of like, well, what kind of a job is this person on? What was she assigned? What is she trying to figure out about me? Is she trying to take my job? Is she trying to throw me off? There were a lot of questions. And so I was reading very fast at that point. And so I definitely had a couple late nights with this one.
I saw her immediately as a pawn. Like, I don't know why, but I immediately saw her. She's just a pawn to try to get at her because he hasn't been able. Mr. Smith has been smart on these things, but he's never been able to get underneath her skin. And he knew that the one thing that she held dear to her was her actual identity. And so I was like, oh, she's just a pawn to get at her. And then when she goes and finds the manila envelope, which has all the information they get every single time, I was like, yep, that's what she is.
Well, and when she died, in the realization of like, oh crap, he just killed off her only hope of getting out of this. That was a big switcheroo.
Yeah, because it was like her safe zone. She knew she could always go, or in her mind, she could always go back to that identity and who she was. But when that died, so did that safe space. And so that was a whole switcheroo on her mind. I mean, imagine everything that felt comfortable or safe dying in an instant. Like, yeah.
That was a big move. And I feel like it definitely did throw Evie, and she was panicking and trying to figure out how this was being used against her, for her, and complicating things for sure.
Right. But then using James, specifically using James, because of his relationship with Ryan, also was pretty smart too for Mr. Smith. But how did you feel about that one?
That felt complicated to me because then I was wondering if he was in on it. I think Evie was like, he's too dumb and desperate. So like he was an easy pawn to use and to get back in, because Ryan was a good guy and he was a good friend and had supported James throughout the years. So it really was a great way to weasel into their lives again. So it was a shame that they were using this person for that role, but there's one line that I wanted to bring up. Let me find where it was, because it was talking about how it was during like the funeral preps for James and Luca, and her line was, "Nobody gossips more than God-fearing, casserole-toting women." And I just died because she was trying to find out more information about how they died or all the things surrounding that. And like as a double agent or whatever we want to call her, her observations of church ladies just...
Well, and this is the South. So
Right.
everyone from everywhere is bringing a casserole. You got to get the deep freeze filled because here they all come. And so, yes, and they are gossipy. I mean, I love them,
Right.
but, they'll tell you the information, especially if you're standing around the kitchen.
Yep.
And that was really smart of her, the way she went into the room to go and pretend to help to pack her stuff. Was like, oh, okay. That was really smart to get the information. Because she needed to get the information because I think she needed the evidence.
Right. And I don't think that those old ladies really knew anything of the information that she was actually looking for.
No. And I don't think it would have even made any sense to them if they found anything of that nature. Like, why is she writing about her, like, someone else? I think they'd be even more confused. So
Probably. All right. What about the situation with the football coach?
Oh, yeah, the football coach.
Right? We forget about that one.
I did because I think it was cool, again, using leverage to wear all of that. But I thought that was like, oh, wow, okay. It's not as memorable as some of these other ones to me. Did it stick out to you?
It didn't stick out to me, but then in the end, the fact that she has this friend, the football player, comes back in and totally gets her off the hook. So being on that job with trying to get the coach fired without
Right. Yes.
any drama.
Yes.
That was an interesting play, and she thought that it was kind of a game or it was a test again to figure out a way to do that. But I thought it was really interesting how that young football player came back into the mix and saved her in her investigation at the end.
Did you pay attention to the wording? When they called on the FaceTime, right, they were FaceTiming because she wanted to show face. Did you notice that you wouldn't imagine how big he's gotten? So that was almost like if I think it was the detective that was right there, paid attention to that. Was she really there on Tuesday? Like... Right. Like, if you would have thought about that, like, wait, weren't you just there? So why would it matter? Because you would have just saw him Tuesday. He's not grown since Tuesday. And, like, talking about the son, right? Like, his kid.
Oh.
See?
Okay, the smaller kid. I thought you were talking about the football player, and I thought you were talking about how, like, he's grown in popularity over the years.
Talking about when he was helping him. The wording in there, he talks about his, like, because they basically get on
it was
there.
over the crash. So it really was just like the week before.
Yeah.
No. Well, it was the Amy job. Isn't that what they were asking about? It was the Amy job. So it was a couple months at least.
Sure. Okay. So I guess they could be thinking that. But really, I mean.
I like where your head's at.
My head's thinking, come on. I'm like going, all right, detective.
Well, she did say that he indicated that Tuesdays would be the best if they needed an alibi.
Smart.
So
very smart.
that was awesome to have that one all wrapped up. And the fact that the friend, Rachel, who was the attorney, that she was just kind of like,
wow,
where are you going with this? Like, we haven't talked about this. And then to have this, like, star NFL player come up on the screen and, like, have the full alibi and was like, I've got this.
Okay, so talking about Rachel, okay, they don't really talk about some of her Could you imagine being her? Like, some of the times when these things that come up that she has no idea, like, I'm supposed to represent you and you've told me none of this. Like, the shock.
Seemed like a very interesting investigation room or whatever conference room to be sitting in. I would have been very frustrated as a control freak, as somebody who would want to be like buttoned up and ready to go as a really good attorney.
Yeah.
Like, I would want to have all of that information. And she's just like, trust me, go with me. And so she still like stood her ground and played like boss woman. Also, early on, going back to the lunch where she tells like the first lie wins, the fact that Rachel kept pushing, and she had already said, Ryan says that this is the woman who gets on his last nerve.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. Yes.
And then when she's actually having lunch with this lady and she keeps pressing and she's like, I totally understand. She gets on my last nerve. And I was in my car, like pulling in the driveway, and I was like, she's getting on my last nerve, this woman.
Well, and she won't stop. And really, of all the women, if you think about it, she's like probably one of the smartest that just is pushing and pushing. Like, I read through your lies, I see you, and I see that what you're doing is not okay. And so that's probably why, like, because obviously Ryan had his own junk. Who knows why she actually was getting on his last nerve, because she might have been questioning things that he was doing and saying. So therefore, it's like, oh, you don't like her because you can't be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. That tenacity in the nice connotation turns out to be getting on my last nerve to other people. So,
well, we don't like people coming in our business. So
no.
Yeah. And so when you have someone that's asking the right questions, it's like, I kind of told you to be quiet, stop asking. And she's still asking. It's like, all right, enough is enough.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about, I believe it was the Tate job?
Oh, yeah.
The painting that needed to be stolen?
Oh, the one at the very, like, that's all throughout.
That's the one that we've kind of been, like, waiting to hear, I think, because that was, like, the test.
Right. That was the test. And so then you find out the video of her in front. You see her on the, surveillance cameras. And so she's out in front after the fire.
Oh, sorry. The painting where it was a test where a bunch of the agents had to go and steal this one.
My brain's in 72. Mind you, there's like 72 different things that going on. It's a lot.
Sorry, this wasn't the one that they were waiting for. Amy is the one
Yes, we need to go back to
that
one eventually. But yes, okay, the one where they're like all the people, and she finally texts to Devin, right? And Devin and her, Devin, who also, we haven't talked about him.
No, he comes at Hilton Head.
Yes, and I like him a lot.
We love him.
I think, and did you worry about him?
Were you suspicious?
Yes.
Again, I wasn't. I felt like you would, you would see red flags, and I was like, I'm just going to trust him blindly. That's me.
Again, I'm like, trust no one. Again, this book reveals to me to trust no one because, I mean, that's what thrillers do. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, too good to be true. And he's too helpful. He's giving too much information. Is he Mr. Smith? Like, there was that moment of like, oh, maybe he is Mr. Smith.
I questioned it, or I at least tried to have my critical thinking hat on and was like, could he be? And then I was like, no, I think he really is flummoxed. I think he is very caught off guard, and like that, I think he's too smart of a person. Like, he couldn't hide if he had figured out who Mr. Smith was. So I think he was still in it to figure out who this person was and to help her. I think they had this genuine working relationship. And so I loved Devin. Devin was great. He was kept to himself, but so smart and
brilliant.
Seemed like a caring fella.
Again, in my mind, I thought he knew the information because he was the information.
Inside, yeah.
He was the information that they were going after. And so later on, I was appreciating how brilliant he was at all this hacking and how he could get on the inside. And I was like, wow, okay. At the end, I was like, I'm so surprised at how well he did it.
So it was because of him that she was able to get in and get the painting and get out and kind of win that test. What did you think about the revelation that everybody else who was part of that test died, other than Amy?
And, like, didn't she, like, know that? Like, she finds out that they all died, right?
Well, that's where I was confused as to whether she realized that they all died in the wake of that, or that Devin just couldn't find their information. I feel like we were led to believe that he could only find information on one person, but we didn't realize that they had all been like...
Well, I mean, if I were... So then I'm a little confused on that to go, okay, did she know before, or did she know, like, in the middle, in the midst? And so that's where I was like, okay, if I would have known that, would I have done it? I don't think so. Would you?
Done what?
Tried to even get in there, like, try to even steal the painting.
Well, yes, because if you were going to fail, you were going to die. So I think I would have done it.
Oh, well, true. Right, true.
But I think in the trying to hunt those people down is when they kind of figured that all the other people died mysteriously. And that's really when they started plotting to get back at Mr. Smith.
Yeah, because he was an awful man.
Which I thought was kind of interesting, and I don't think it truly hit me until the end that she was really stuck in this job and was being used. I kind of looked at it as just a job and that she was being employed, and I don't think I saw it as manipulative as it really was. Did you?
I did. I saw that she didn't have an out. I saw something there was there, like, there's a reason why she's not leaving. And I didn't know, I couldn't figure out what it was, but I saw like, okay, there's a reason why she keeps going and she keeps doing this and she keeps on these tests, because she knows, like, she's aware that a lot of them are tests. Like, why would she do that unless he has something on her? So,
yeah. Kudos to you. You know,
I've read a lot of these books. So.
I know.
Okay.
I just want to feel happy for these people.
Well, good. That's why I'm pushing you to get inside my psychopathic head. So how did you feel about when they were at the hotel? She walks out and hears Ryan talking. How'd you feel about that?
I was conflicted because at first she doesn't recognize the voices. Like, it's just two people talking. And that I felt a little like you would have recognized both of those voices. So it wasn't until she moved closer that she was able to make that out. And then I was so confused. And that's where my mind was like, is Ryan Mr. Smith? Is George Mr. Smith? Or like, how are both of these guys in the same place at the same time? How does this track? And so then Ryan kind of went into full weird mode. And so it felt very, very, very suspicious at that point that everything was pointing toward him. And Ashley Elston very specifically does not reveal the photo. Like when Devin sends her the photo and says, we dealing with facts now?
Yes.
We dealing with facts. That's when I was like, they would have just said it was Ryan if it was Ryan.
Yeah, I feel like they would. I feel like he would have just, like, killed her because she was already attached to this. You know, she had already felt all the feels.
What did you think about the conversation there?
I mean, I just felt like I liked it. I liked that she, like, fell into that. And I imagined, like, when you hear voices far off, they're kind of muffled. And so I envisioned that she couldn't really hear them until she got a little bit closer. And I was like, ooh, I like this twist. Like, there's got to be some twist in this. And so I'm like, okay, this is nailing down one of these guys right now. And so in my head, I'm like, Ryan's already, you know, there's no good guy. And so I'm like, all right, now I'm getting it. Now I'm starting to unfold. And so that's the moment when I was like, I got to finish this right now.
Well, and did you start, like, kind of flipping back in your mind, like, well, what other instances have they not been in the same place at the same time where things could have lined up where he was the bad guy?
Oh.
Because that's where, like, Evie starts doing that, and I was like, well, wait, that doesn't make sense, but they were here when they did this, and then, but she was there, and then, but when did they do this? So I was trying to do the math myself.
Right.
I mean, Evie did it very well.
She did, and I followed her timeline, and so that helped a lot in the unfolding towards where we get towards the end and understand who Mr. Smith really is. And so I was like, wow, that was great. I thought it was great. I loved it. I loved the whole thing.
I'm glad.
So then we get way further in the book, and we find out, you know, who Mr. Smith is. We find out that, okay, so what I was talking about and referring to about the fire.
Yes.
And so in all of that, what did you think happened to her? Did you think she died? Did you think?
So the whole Amy thing, we were waiting the whole book to find out because she botched the last job, and that this is why everything is hanging on this last one. And so they're talking about how Amy had incriminating evidence against this mobster. It was big. You knew that there was something, and you knew that she did have it. And so when she talked about how she lit the match on the red coat, and saw the red coat going up in flames, that's when I was like, there's no body there, or Amy's still alive. So I definitely saw that coming. Did you see that coming?
Yes. One thing I've learned about thrillers, if you don't see the body, there's no body. And so it's somewhere else, right? There's more to that story. It's like, in the other books we can read and say, okay, there's a dead body. You don't know who the body is. It's unidentified, but there was no body. And so that's when I saw, okay, there's something else. There's more to the story.
There was a body.
But it wasn't hers.
Right. It wasn't hers. Yeah. Devin was able to procure a body.
Right. Exactly. So, like, that's when I'm like, oh, they did not lay out exactly that it was her.
Right. It just felt very staged, which it was. Because,
yes.
I mean, why was she laying in bed with her coat on? Like, that also felt weird. But that just felt like it needed to be in the red coat. So that's how she would be identified.
Right. Yeah.
So that was cool. But I didn't understand that they were in cahoots.
Yeah. Yeah. That was really a surprise to me that they were like working together. I was like, oh, that's one thing I did not see coming. I did not see them working together towards this like common goal. Right. And so I was like, wow, that was a really cool twist that Ashley did. Like, great job on that twist.
Well, and I think they've had several months then to be trying to do some background information, and that also made me wonder, what was the information that Amy had? Because at that point, she should have shared that with Evie and Devin. So what was the incriminating evidence?
I mean, I don't really feel like I really understood like what it was or what it was important. Or did Mr. Smith just make that up? Or, and then I loved that they had that safe deposit box that had nothing in it. And so,
Not nothing.
well, yes.
It had a swan.
Yes, the origami. But like nothing of importance to where they felt like it was, big.
Well, I guess we do find out that the incriminating evidence was that Mr. Smith was stealing from the mob boss or skimming off the money that they were dealing with. And so the fact that they're able to kind of like wash their hands of Mr. Smith by sending him off with the mobsters to handle, and how like they weren't going to leave any identifiable pieces.
Yeah.
Did you like that? Did you feel like he needed a different ending?
I mean, if I was Evie, I might want like a few punches myself. I mean, it made me go like, okay, well, I know he's being taken care of because he's been stealing from them. He's obviously like done really bad things and, gotten away with it. But maybe just like one good kick in the gut. I mean, how'd you feel?
I am just still kind of torn because did you feel like weird vibes between Evie and George in their encounters? Like when he came to the door to deliver stuff, she'd be like, come on in, have some pizza. Or like, I got these like weird relationship vibes where, again, though, I was picturing like a 50 to 60-year-old man. And now looking back, I'm like, it was like a 30-year-old. So they were on like an even playing field. But it was always this like weird, come on in, or like in another life, we'd get to know each other type of thing. And so I don't know. There's just kind of a weird unresolved. I feel like Evie needed more of a goodbye, or like, hey, I solved this final puzzle, you dum-dum.
Jokes on you. Like,
right.
I'm smarter than you. And I guess because I envisioned like her dad. I mean, that's when I saw that, I envisioned someone that was like a figure, because you don't see her dad in this book. And and so I envision her like inviting him in, because obviously she didn't talk about that. So wanting that relationship with someone, in my mind, this was like an older gentleman that she was like filling that gap with. I guess I didn't put any more thought than that into it.
I did think it was great, though, that the two of them were the ones walking into the bank together. And I felt bad for Devin. I mean, he even said afterward, he's like, I wish I had video of that. I wanted to see his face when you opened the safe deposit box. Like, that was a moment.
It was.
What did you think was going to be in the safe deposit box? Did you see it coming?
I thought there would be something. A picture. I was envisioning when she opened the swan, there would be a picture of something or numbers or some information. But like, I was like, wow. I mean, I imagine he was shocked. What did you think?
I was questioning I mean, they're talking about it was as she was leaving the fire that she went in
Right away.
to the safe deposit box. And throughout the entire book, we've learned that she's a smart woman and doesn't do anything by chance and has been very meticulous in her planning. And so that felt very obvious.
Well, and she knew she was on cameras.
Right. And so that I was just like, she couldn't have actually put something of value in here or hasn't gone back to get it between then and now. And she had specifically said, he knows I wouldn't put anything of value in the house with Ryan. Like, so she has to have a different safe spot. A safe deposit box just feels not her vibe.
Right.
And so that felt very contrived. And so I was expecting something. And so I wasn't expecting the swan. And so when it opened up and it was that, I was like, yes.
I did love that being her like signature, right? I did love that. I mean, it kind of showed her, right?
Yes.
And left a little bit of her. So how'd you feel when you went to the house and you came and saw Amy and then Devin? I mean,
the fact that everyone was alive and friends, and that was really nice. And that they were trying to process everything. I thought it was interesting that they're kind of carrying on the family business.
Yeah, Mrs. Smith.
Right.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I mean, I couldn't tell if it was Ashley's way of trying to present a second book or if it was just, all right, Ryan, you and I are on the same page. We've talked about this. We're going to go on. How did you feel about the relationship? I need to know about that.
Right. That's like, I think they're going to live happily ever after. I'm excited for them. The morally gray people, like, I think it's going to be great because they both know about each other's shiftiness and they've got space for it.
It's a web of lies.
Right.
Yes. But the fact that they were both so honest with their lies and came out. And so it's like, I've got my own crap. You've got your own crap. Let's just love each other and continue with all of this chaos. And to carry on with it, it made sense.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to go tend my garden and enjoy my white picket fence. Like that just, it felt like, yes.
While you're
we all
going
have our
and
secrets.
stealing everything and bringing home the money.
Yeah, I feel good about that relationship. I'm glad that they were able to reconcile. I feel like it took her way too long to go back to him because it was like another month before she went back to the house. And I was like, what if he's moved on? That'll be sad.
I kind of felt like she needed that time for her, like to decompress. She's been living a lie for so long. So to go actually face your lie and lay it out on the table, couldn't you imagine how hard that would be?
Yes. Just the thought that she completely killed off her actual persona and let that girl take the fall for everything and just how she completely unraveled her own personal story and now gets to take on Evie Porter for good for now. Who knows?
Yeah.
She's got the skills to become somebody else, but
And the man too.
Like changing the dental records to match so that your story is locked in, that's crazy.
It's smart.
That's details, man.
Yes, it is. And so it just shows, really looking back upon the book, things that I didn't catch while reading it, thinking about those details of how smart she is and how she thinks about every single thing really kind of shows like, okay, she wouldn't have gone to the bank then. She wouldn't have done this when this person was here. You know, so it really shows her character even more like, wow, I missed that. I missed that part. Like, why wouldn't I have caught that? But it really unfolds who she is.
I do want to say my main takeaway, or like the best thing that I learned in this book, had to do with when you're unplugging your curling iron. Do you remember this? She talks about how if you need to remember that you unplugged your curling iron or that you locked the door, how do you separate that in your memory from every other mundane time that you've done this? And she's like, you have to turn around in a circle or jump 3 times or clap your hands and do a jumping jack. Like, I'm going to do that from now on. Like, before you leave for vacation and you're like, wait, did I turn the stove off? Did I unplug my straightener? I'm doing jumping jacks or something. Like that was like a light bulb moment of this is going to save me so many headaches.
I mean, it makes me laugh. It kind of makes me think of like, people like, again, not trying to shame anything, but people with like OCD, how they do things repetitively like that. It kind of made me feel a little bit like that. Like, okay, wait, hold on. You're going to do something, but I could see the benefit of it. And to where it's like, okay, wait, yep, I know I didn't turn it off, but I know for sure I did the jumping jacks.
Right. I just thought that was so helpful. I know some people take a picture or like just to set the stage straight. Like I did it. I did it and I don't need to worry about it. I'm not really an anxious person, but I don't want to burn the house down. So yes, I will be turning around 3 times or doing something ridiculous. That was her trick she didn't want, I believe it was Ryan, to remember her asking questions about the other persona. And so that's why she was trying to like divert the attention so that it didn't lock in his brain as something that strayed from the normal. But I thought that was a great tidbit.
I agree.
Also, she tried to like distract him with fishnets or thigh-high leggings or thigh-high tights. I was just, wow, okay. I could see it.
Yes, and it was like, okay, all right.
I dig this persona.
Yeah.
She's sassy.
She is. I imagine her being like this really beautiful woman. Yeah. All right, so if you could describe the book, like just give a gist of like a word or 2 words, what would you say?
I came up with fresh, fierce, and fun.
See, mine goes a whole different way. See, you see the good in everything.
I do.
And I'm like deception, master of identity. I mean, lies, big, bold lies.
Yeah.
And then like the master of those lies, right? And being able to like live the lie fully. Like it's one thing to tell a lie. It's one thing to live a whole identity.
True.
And so that's where I felt like that mastering it. So she mastered how not to just say I'm that person, but to be that person.
Yeah. That's funny. I struggled because I feel like I really enjoyed this book and I didn't know how to define it because there was a lot, but my takeaways were it was fun. I'm also that person when it comes to rating books, so I think we can give our rating because I'm notorious for being just an easy rater. And I do want to switch. I think for the first 2 books, we've done a 1 through 10. I feel like for books, everybody does 5 stars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
accurate.
I think
I'm good with that. I think just showing that too, and sometimes doing 1 through 10 gives me too much leverage too.
Yes.
And like to give like, I'm going to take away a star, but also like, I'm going to use my decibels.
yes, yes, I'm okay with the fractions
Yeah,
there.
I'm going to give you a fraction.
But for this one, I'm just going to go with a 5. Honestly, 5 stars.
I think it was great. I think it was great. And I see, this is where I say, like, I would say like a 4.9. I loved it. And so I think it is such a great book. I mean, it's probably one of the fastest I've read through. And so I missed a lot of those little details that you gave me today because I read through it so fast.
Yeah. And I think this is one that you can go back and read to catch up on those things or read it with a different perspective.
I actually think I will reread this book, and that I don't say that very often. Like, I probably will, maybe like 5 years down the road, be like, yes, that was so good. It was such a page turner, so many twists and turns, but I liked it a lot.
You should pull up the audiobook. They talk in a Southern accent, and I was going back and forth between the book and the audiobook, and so my brain was having a really hard time because I don't read in a Southern accent. It was so weird. I don't know. I need some feedback for anybody else that listened to the audiobook. What did you think about the accent? Because I know it all took place in the South. We were in Louisiana for a lot of it, but my brain didn't go there.
Did your Southern drawl come out?
Oh, my Southern drawl comes out for sure. It was funny. I do want to ask, because we were in the South and they went to a Kentucky Derby party, have you ever been to a Derby party or done something with those hats?
Yeah, I've been not to the actual Derby, but to parties.
Yeah.
They're so fun. I don't go to watch the horses run. Who does?
Fastest minute in sports.
You don't go for that, right? And so it's the high class, the cute dresses,
Yes.
the big giant hats. And I love that she feels almost embarrassed to go in. And she's like, yeah, nope, my hat is not the biggest. And so, and I think she like even references like a little plastic horse or something like,
Yes.
and I thought that was
like
great.
a Barbie horse.
Yes. I thought that was great. And so to me, it was like, oh yeah, totally no need to be embarrassed. Have you ever been to one?
That's my next idea. If I go to one, I want to find a horse to put on a hat. I think we've been to some sort of get-togethers, but I've never had like a fabulous hat. I've always wanted to. At one of the news stations that I worked at, I worked weekends, and I think it was an NBC station, and NBC was carrying the Kentucky Derby. And so we kind of made our own. We went and grabbed a newspaper, and I formed my own Kentucky Derby hat out of newspaper and tape and staples, and it was so glamorous. I am still so proud of that hat because it was big and it was like feathered with newspaper.
That was your origami. Man, that was amazing.
That's my trademark. I'm going to just start leaving those everywhere.
That's awesome. Okay, so we did want to reference like the book cover with like the book. Now, after you've read it, what do you see on the cover, how it relates to the book?
I mean, I like the cover. I like that it is the vision of this grandpa home. And like that's where they get to live happily ever after. It is kind of spooky with the eerie blue vibes and it being nighttime. You said you loved this cover, or that you were just getting a lot out of it.
So I saw the red as like the fire from the whole like Amy thing. And so I was like, oh, so they took the house, but then this part, like this, like her front door was not the actual house. That was the envision of the fire with Amy, because really that's kind of where all of it kind of shifts in like, okay, we're still hanging on where's Amy, and we don't find out till the very end where she's at. And so, yes, we see this nice house in the South, and look, it's got the wraparound porch, and so
nice.
So I see that like there's mysterious. She's like lurking out the window, and you just see this figure. So yeah, I liked it.
I do have one question. We kind of talked about Evie becoming Miss Smith. Do you think she'll do a better job?
Yeah, because she has Ryan. I think she has Ryan and Devin. And so in my mind, she's going to be great. And so there are people that she can actually trust, where I don't know if Mr. Smith had anybody he truly could trust.
Well, and he felt shady.
Yeah.
So I was interested, like you said, there could be a second book here with her taking over this role. I felt like Mr. Smith had kind of a weird edge on the market and was doing bad jobs.
Yeah.
And so like Evie might take over doing like more like Robin Hood jobs, stealing from the rich to give to the poor.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I could see it.
That's totally morally gray right there.
Right?
Yes. And so in that, yeah, I can totally see her being a lot better at Mrs. Smith versus Mr. Smith.
All right. I feel like that really covers it for us. I want to hear our listeners' feedback because I want the reviews. We're adding them to our newsletter. We're posting them on our social media so that everybody else is involved. We gave very high ratings for this book. I've talked to a couple people who have also given this very high ratings. And remember, like we said in the last episode, this is coming out on Hulu.
Yes.
It's going to be a series of some sort. I'm so excited now.
I was telling you, I said jokingly, I was like, the green is totally Hulu green. And so like, I love that it's coming out to be a series, but I'm very curious how they're going to make this a long series, because I can't envision in my mind it longer than one season.
What if they do it episodes and they do an episode starting with her at home with her mom, and then they do the next episode and it was her as the nanny, and then they do it her at Hilton Head, and then like each of her different aliases. That could be a whole episode so that it's not weaving in and out all the time.
Right. And again, I always am really impressed, and I'm always really I hate that they take away from the book, because the book's always better. My takeaway always is like, how do they show what's going on inside their heads? Because in the book, There's a lot where we're inside of Evie's head that you can't really portray outwardly, like speak outwardly. And so I think it's really like, I'm really excited to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we read this one.
Yeah, it was so great. I loved it. I'm so glad. This makes me so excited that you loved a thriller.
I love crime as well. I'm a crime junkie, so come on, let's do it.
Well, and it stuck away from the gore and too much of the,
Right, this wasn't scary.
Yeah, true.
I'm all about this. Spy stuff? Yeah. Give me double agents any day.
I would say this is more of a crime novel than I would say sure a thriller, but definitely not it's really a fun one.
I like police stories, and I think that's the journalist in me trying to solve crimes, but I love when we're following police.
Yeah.
When you're following the bad guy, that's fun too.
Well, it was great. I loved this book. I highly recommend it. I can't wait for our listeners' reviews, and I'll be looking for those. Okay, the episode is over. If you enjoyed it, could you give us a thumbs up or leave a review?
It goes a long way toward helping us grow and meet new people like you.
Subscribe to get notified when the next episode drops.
You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook to see what we're reading next, recommend new books, and join the conversation.
We're so excited to have you on board.